Everything on our board.
That's not for the record. We have enough bad in DC.
Those two and I'll do that. Just fine, not so everything. And we can wait on the veterans. Until the next one anyway. Yeah, services are all the things that haven't happened.
Today is oh, same as elementary.
I might mention this
just because I want them to know that we're getting them.
Oh, actually, I mean, there are like right there.
So I'll just pull that little piece out.
I felt really weird taking one from that table.
Good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order, and please stand and join us in the pledge first. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Happy to see everybody here tonight. Glad you could join us for the regular board meeting. So starting with roll call, please note those in attendance. And next is approval of the agenda. Just a couple things to note. Mainly, there is an item under item 11, future meeting dates. The next board advisory committee meeting will be November 18th. Regular meeting time happens to fall on Veterans Day, the week before. So if this packet said November 11th, make that change, November 18th. I'll mention it too, but this will come under board reports, so now I'm backing up to it. But the handout that you have here, if you're wondering where that goes, that'll come under board reports with the wellness committee. Board member Woods will comment on that, so that should be everything for changes. So we got it.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion by Bob Woods, second by Ethan to approve the agenda with those additions or changes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move into Mustang Spirit. And I am going to call on Randy.
Our Mustang Spirit goes to two, Mariah Huntington and Jean Madsen. Jean couldn't be here tonight, but they do an amazing job in our resource rooms at the elementary. They put their heart and soul into their work. Both of them came back to Mora schools after being educated in Mora schools, even despite your 5th grade teacher, right?
Gave that away.
I was not Jean's 5th grade teacher, just for the record. They do an amazing job of working well with the classroom teachers and the students to come up with the best plan they can for those students to be successful. Just go above and beyond every day. Amazing to work with. They coordinate their staffing to do what's best for our kids. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of the board and Ms. Mora. So glad you're back in Mora, and thank you for everything you do, especially your department. Those 2 days are really seeing. And thank you to Jean also. Any other Mustang Spirit? We're going to do high school, I think, otherwise. So go ahead.
Please. I would like to recognize Mr. Michael Fury. He teaches our 9th graders in social studies, and believe it or not, sometimes it's hard to motivate 9th graders in social studies class. So he is tackling that using a concept called gamification. And I didn't know much about gamification until I researched it. And what he's doing is he's having class craft parties where there are boss fights, leveling up, gathering gold, healing, and taking damage. And I actually asked him to take a couple minutes quickly, if that's okay with the board, just to show us what gamification is. Would you be able to do that?
Yes, I heard it's been like leaking into other classes. The word damage is like when someone does something naughty, kids will point across the room like, damage, they get damage. So let me show you.
Assuming this is non-violent.
So I'm here totally showcasing something totally goofy that I'm doing. And it was a real experiment this year. I had no idea how it was going to work, but I knew if you know anything about what I have been doing in school, I have a little baby at school called Gaming Club. And Gaming Club is huge, larger and larger every year. I have over 50 kids every week so far this year. And now that cross country's over, and as soon as this play is over, it's going to be even bigger than that. So this is something that I thought I would try with this crew of kids. I have a lot of them. Here's one that we know, or at least the son of someone we know quite well. And here is his character that he made. And Classcraft is really just this, it's embedded in the browser. And students on the second day of school, we did kind of like a bonding activity and made characters. And in those characters, they also have teams within each classroom. And those teams work together sometimes to down bosses, which are a form of formative assessments that we do instead of doing a Kahoot or a quiz or a little game. Instead of doing a game, we play this game. And where they fight a boss. And so his team, he has his other team members here. And if Joe does something naughty, I can click on the damage, and maybe he was bullying a classmate. Or maybe it was a minor offense. Maybe he let a naughty word slip. You know, I can have him take damage, and other people in his team can help him. So something that this has really done, and that I've been really amazed by, is that the social groups that they have made, they use them to support each other. It's not a competition, it's, hey, like for the team, we want to turn this behavior around. And they police each other. It's really, really cool. So on here, I have all different kinds of tools, like little teacher tools, like quests, that they can go on a quest and they can earn extra experience to level up their character. Like one of the things that I did was, and these are things that I make, usually they go above and beyond what we're doing in class. So like for this one, I just said like, hey, show me some evidence, some stuff that you've heard about Egypt in the past outside of school. So kids were posting stuff like they posted some movies, they posted Night at the Museum. So like I think Cleopatra's in that movie. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get engagement and I'm trying to stem their curiosity. And I use this to go above and beyond. So these things don't show up in the grade book, but they follow them passionately, which is really cool. It's also a way to get students who are getting A's, A+s on everything I do. It's a way to get them to give me even more, to challenge them. So here are a couple of the tools that I might use. This is one of my favorites, is the volume meter that I might use in class. Let's say they get 100 experience if they successfully keep the volume below that meter for the entire work period. Maybe it's like a 15-minute work period. So if they do, they get experience. And the reason I'm telling you that is because as their characters level up, they can get new abilities for their characters, which translate to things in real life. Let's see, Joe Baki chose invisibility for his mage. So if he uses it, it takes 10 ability power to use, and I guess I won't take the time to explain all the video gamey terms. But so today, if he wants to use this, he can eat in class. So that's something that I really crack down on all the time, like no food, no phones. Like I'm crazy like that, and the kids know it. But if they have this ability, I can be off their back that day, and they love it. They love it. So the first day, you know, we go over the syllabus and they hear all these terrible rules that Mr. Fury has, but then I'm like, oh, but if you're a mage, you can eat in class. If you're a healer, no, you can go on your phone for 5 minutes sometimes. Like little things like that. The one that the A+ students love is if they're taking a test or a quiz, they can ask me if a question is correct or not. They just show me their answer and I say yes or no. They love that. So those leveling up their characters actually translates to real things for them, which means nearly 100% of my students have bought into this. I thought I was going to have like a 50-50 ratio when I started this, but almost everybody has bought in and appreciates this. I want to show you some of the ways that they can level up. One of my favorite things is that I can align this to PBIS, the Positive Behavior Interventions. And so to gain experience and level up their character, maybe they were showing up respectfully and at the start of class they were ready to learn. So usually what I do is at the start of class, I say everybody who is here and ready to go, you get 50. And then maybe they were practicing active listening. We were doing a lot of notes that day and they just were awesome. They demonstrated responsibility, they showed care for each other, they tried, failed, but then tried again. So like you can align that with PBIS, but you can also take damage along with that too. Maybe they were acting unkindly to others, so they take 15 damage. Maybe they damaged their personal materials or they're breaking my pencils. Well, they take damage for that. So I love this because I can line it up to however I want. I can make my own new rules, my own new experience gains, however I feel like setting it up. The other day I added a new ability to a class that says you can sit wherever you want that day. And that opened up a lot of eyes in class. And like, oh, maybe I should do that. So it's generally been really awesome. And I've had a lot of buy-in and a lot of support with the kids, and it's just been a blast. So like, yeah.
It's a win-win if you're having fun too, right?
Yeah, so it's also something that I'm really into, and that helps, because it is kind of a lot of work to set up, but it's been really fun.
Thank you for all that.
Thanks for letting me share.
All right, so is there any other Mustang Spirit at this time?
For it, so I can work that. They can buy it.
Yeah.
Or they can get gold wing things, and they can use that gold to buy cosmetic things for their characters. So yeah, like that was like a special Halloween one that just came out a couple
So
days
kind of
ago.
cool when you see somebody refer back to work.
I'm getting on the books with them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay, it brings us to the first open forum. Before we go into that, I just want to clarify one thing. Tonight's agenda also includes a discussion on the Minnesota Department of Education Commissioner's review comment with regard to the proposed sale of the building bonds. So if you are here to speak by any chance to the upcoming election and would like to do it at that time, that's coming up later in the meeting. We will allow comment at that time. You can also speak as we usually do or allow during open forum too. So totally up to you, but that will be coming later if you're here to address the upcoming election at all. So with that, I will first call on Mr. Stephen Holm.
Well, I just wanted to talk tonight just to express a few things. One is I want to express my thanks to the superintendent, the principal, and the school board. You know, I've lived in Mora now 8 years starting on Monday, and our family loves this community and loves what this community has to offer, and served in this community on a lot of different levels. So I'm just here I just felt like with tonight, we know there's discussion on the upcoming referendum and to vote yes, yes, and I just wanted to come to express my deep gratitude to all the leaders that have took time to support what our community really needs. You know, I try to look at everything from, try to get myself out of my own bubble and try to look at everything from a different perspective. You know, as I look at what we have coming up, I look at it's an issue of stewardship, that all of us are stewards of a city. You know, this isn't our city, we're just stewards of it. We're managers of this city, and sometimes when we look at stewardship, we have to get outside the present and we have to look ahead. And sometimes looking ahead, making decisions could be making sacrifices that, you know, we may not enjoy. Some of us may not be here for what's down the road, but the decisions that we make now determine where our future lies. And I look at what we have coming up. It's a stewardship issue. And then at the same time, when we make those decisions, stewardship is on the other side. We have to look at fiscal responsibility, and that when we have these resources accoladed to us, how do we best utilize the resources that we have and make the best responsible decisions we make. So I just wanted to come and share and set the tone for that. My heart would be, as we look at what's coming up, is that we operate with wisdom in everything we do. Wisdom on the future, wisdom with what we do at the present, and making the best fiscal responsibilities that we can. Because I look at this opportunity for our city, and I look at Mora as, you know, we're a school of excellence, and as I travel around the county and the area, we have a lot of good things going in our community. And with this upcoming referendum, we have an opportunity to set an example for other communities, because we're not the only community that's going through this. There's other communities, and what if Mora sets the tone for other communities on how we could solve difficult solutions, bring wisdom to the table, where eventually we have other school districts, we have other communities asking us, how did you get through that? And how did you get through that and still be friends? So that's my heart in the whole thing tonight, as we start talking about some difficult things. That, first of all, I just want to express my gratitude to the leaders that are working tireless hours behind the scenes, trying to work for the student, work for the teacher. And a lot of times when we talk about these difficult issues, to be honest, the people that work tirelessly behind the scenes, they're the ones that get attacked needlessly, and they shouldn't. Ultimately, we're all looking at issues, and we should look at the issues without trying to put a name behind it. And I think hopefully as we go through this process and in the next few weeks, that we could look at the issues without attacking individuals, because ultimately at the end of the day, we all have to live together, work together. And so that's my heart in this whole thing. I just thought tonight, if I could share that openly, I just want to express honor and gratitude to the leaders that are working, but at the same time, let's set an example for wisdom and responsibility. And I think in the end, we'll see some greater things for this community, greater things down the road for the city. So thanks so much for giving me some time to share that tonight, and thank you so much, school board and principals and superintendent, for the great work that you do to make this community better. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. All right, next, Phoebe.
Yeah. I'm Phoebe Myron Kroll, and I'm a single mom with 3 little boys in the district. And I just want to maybe make a couple points that we've made, but maybe haven't made enough or something. But just a little, kids say funny things, and you know, if you hang around with 4-year-olds all the time, you've got a 100% sense of humor. So we're gonna go out door knocking this week, and Dash, 4.5 years old, says, door knocking, you've been at referendums for a long time. Door knocking, that's my favorite season. Oh, yeah, door knocking season. Oh boy, but he's enthusiastic, and I'm like, ooh, ringing the doorbell 3 times, that's enough. I mean, but some, you know, there's the numbers and all that stuff, and I don't have all of that in my head or anything, but I think there's a couple things that we have to recognize in our community, and one of them, and I'm not sure really the name for it, but it's either the emotional attachment to the building or the nostalgia for the building. I think there's a lot of that in this community. There's a lot of people who, they went there, here, I didn't, their parents went here, their grandparents went here, and there's a emotional connection to the physical place. And I think that doesn't really get enough attention. And that's a valid thing. A lot of us have great memories of high school. I had a great time in high school, and the farther I get from it, the less I remember the horrible, embarrassing moments and remember more the good embarrassing, the sports, the theater, you know, all those things. But when I look at those memories, my good memories from high school, really, it's about the people I was with. And the building was there and it was important, but it's really about the coaches I had, the teachers I had, the teammates I had. And so my fond memories from high school, and I think other people in the community who feel an emotional attachment to the building, if they could examine those feelings, they'd see it's really the people. And the people will be at the new school. And our children will make those memories at the new school with the teachers and coaches and their classmates that matter. And the building here is no longer serving our needs. It's no longer working. So as hard as it might be, it's like breaking up with your, I don't know who. You're really not. You're really not. All the things that are important about this building will be in the new school. And so I think that's a point that maybe can help us be together on this issue. Another thing that I think maybe it gets mentioned, but it's hard to think about, is the money the state is willing to chip in for the new school, the 45% of the funding or whatever. That state money, that state aid, that's not a present, that's not a handout, that's our money. Like, we work and we pay taxes to the state. We've been, you know, you've been working since you were 16 or something, and we've all been paying taxes to the state of Minnesota. That money is our money. It's all of us in Minnesota, it's our money. And we should have that money come back to our community and support this building project. I think some people have the idea that it's a gift or it's a handout. And I think being fiscally responsible is super important. Like, I don't just throw stuff away if it's, I'm all reuse, recycle. But at the same time, if the state is saying, we will meet you, if you make this commitment to this new school, we will meet you with this percent of the funding, it's not a gift, it's not a handout, it's our money. We should invite it back to our community, is sort of my feeling on that. And I think that is maybe not, it doesn't always come across in the discussion either. I think a lot of people feel like, I mean, we have to put the whole number out there, right? It's the rules, you have to put the whole big number out there. That's a scary big number. But the 45% of that would come from the state, from our own tax bank, I think is an important point too. So those are kind of my two things. I think there's a lot of other things that could be said, and a lot of have kind of been said over and over. But that's kind of a couple points I wanted to, just maybe another way to think about things. Comments, questions?
Just good to sometimes narrow the focus from time to time and refocus. Thank you.
And then, as much as I love meetings, I'm gonna go home and put my little boys to bed. So thank you for the time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Phoebe. Appreciate you coming. So, Jesse, now or later, now?
I can do later.
It's your call. I just wanted you to be aware that we do have a public hearing or comment time coming up.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I'll go quick. Again, like Pastor Steve, I want to say thank you for your hard work. You get a lot of time and energy into that. As we know, there's two sides to this thing. There's the yes to taxes and no to taxes. That's really what it comes down to. But the one common goal is that we're all about yes for the kids. That's what we all want. But how do we get there is the question. My background is I have several years in the trades. I've been a carpenter for many years. I find that there's a huge shortage of trades out there right now because there's been a big push, as you know, to go to college, which is fantastic. I also have a bachelor's degree as well as a master's degree, so I understand the value of having education. And so we want the kids to have a strong education. What I also know is that teaching is hard enough when the things are perfect. When your environments are perfect, teaching is very, very difficult. I've done some substitute teaching here, and it's tough. But then when you throw in the mix of all the other distractions and difficulties of teaching, it can be like pushing a boulder up a hill. It can be very, very difficult. I do believe that putting a new school I will not solve all of the issues today. But if we can help provide better opportunities for our kids to learn, I think it's a really good thing. And if we can give opportunities for kids to get into trades, have a better opportunity to use their hands and have a direction in the community and beyond, I think that's a really good thing, and I'm all for that. So again, I just want to say thank you for your diligence, your leadership. I'm sure that there are folks that you've met that you've grown to love through this process. They come out of the woodwork and said, I'm for you, I'm with you, I'm in this with you. But I know that there's the other side. There's others that were with you, that you loved, and now are not with you because of this whole thing. You are in leadership, and you've made decisions because you see what's best beyond the relationship. And so I want to say thank you for leading beyond what maybe your friends or family might say. You're doing what you think is best for the community, and you're feeling the effects of it. But thank you so much for your hard work. Thanks for leading for the sake of the future.
Mark Johnson. Hello.
I am going to go now if that's okay, because
Sure.
I have to leave for
Sure.
church. And I'm Mark Johnson, and I speak before a lot of committees and boards and things like that. And I usually start it off with Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you, so I'll give you that. Thank you very much for hearing me.
That's a first.
Thank you very much. And for your leadership, as has been mentioned already in this process. You're bringing it forth again, and I applaud that. And that takes a lot to do that. So thank you on behalf of our community and our kids for doing that. I have two boys. One graduated 5 years ago. One's a junior right now. Here in Mora High School. They got a wonderful educational experience. Really a credit to the teachers, the administrators, the staff, the coaches, and all of those people. And those are the people who should be doing that. And they do a wonderful job. And both of my boys speak very highly and are very proud to be from Mora and be at the high school here. They won't see any benefit of the new building unless they come back and stay in the community, which is possible, but they won't be here for the new building. But others in the community will, and students for decades to come will. And so it's so extremely important for those people, for our grandkids, our nieces and nephews, our friends' kids, and all of those kinds of things. So again, I applaud you for that. I work with technology in schools, many of you know that, in many of the area schools around here. And one of the things about a new building, or about a building like this, that nobody sees is the technology it takes and the Herculean effort that sometimes is required to do things like Mr. Fury left, but like Mr. Fury showed you, okay? So you have one-to-one initiative where students have devices, and again, that's a wonderful thing to allow them to collaborate and communicate and be creative in their learning. And you saw an example of that with what Mr. Fury did. That takes a lot of effort in a building that's a patchwork of additions where outside walls are now interior walls. And nobody sees that. So nobody sees. I have personally wired things in this building in past years for distance learning and for video and for computers. And most of this building was built, even in the newest part, most of it was built before the advent of computers, networks, one-to-one devices, and things like that. It takes, I work directly with your technology staff and your teachers all the time on that technology. It works, but nobody understands, or very few people understand what is going on behind the scenes. Everybody says, well, I don't have to wire anything anymore because we have wireless, right? Yeah, okay. But wireless isn't magic and just happens, right? It takes access points, those have to be wired, and they are radio waves. And guess what? They don't go through thick walls very well. So I can attest to the fact that to make wireless successful in this building takes way more equipment than it does in the new building you just built. Way more. And I know exactly, I know that for a fact. The cost involved in that, the extra time it takes for contractors and so on to put that equipment in, because they have to penetrate those walls, they have to do all the things they have to do, is a Herculean effort to make things like Mr. Fury showed you work. And it does, but that's one more example. It's one small thing. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of these things, but it's one small thing that I know about, that you look at and you say, okay, your technology access, your students' ability to use that technology is going to be much, much more reliable and much easier when it doesn't have to, you know, get through brick walls and cement and things that were not designed for that. So, again, but one thing, but again, I think an important thing that both makes teaching and learning better and saves money, because it has to be done. It doesn't last forever either, by the way, right? That stuff has to be replaced in the cycle, and so we face that same problem that we have. So again, I appreciate all the work that all of you have done, again, for our community and for our kids. Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else here to address the board at this time? All right, seeing none then, we will move on, and thank you for all the comments. We are down to less than 2 weeks to election day, and so it's the collective effort of many, many people that have helped to get word out on the issues we're facing, and so it is appreciated from the board's perspective, so thank you, everybody. We'll move on then to item number 4, and that is a presentation by Ms. Weiner on the travel club.
Thanks for your time today. This is. Before I start talking. Both an update on. Is that okay? I'll do that. An update on this year's trip, this academic year's trip to Greece in April, and also a proposal to the board to approve or decline a 2021 trip to Portugal. Oh, I forgot, Madam Chair. Thank you for your time. So this year's trip in April is to Greece, which includes a 4-day cruise, which has made this trip quite popular. Our departure date is April 8th. We have a total of 47 travelers this year. And our breakdown is 35 students. 9 seniors, 6 juniors, 20 sophomores. Sophomores seems to be like the group of people who make up my trips the most. 12 adults, 6 chaperones, 2 chaperone parents, meaning Miss Stevens is a chaperone and her mother is coming, and Mr. Nolt is a chaperone and his mother is coming. And then 3 of our students have parents coming along, and as well as 1 student's grandparent. So it's become kind of a family get-together. Just to appraise you of the hard work that myself and my chaperones do, and parents of students on these trips. So far, we have raised approximately $15,000 in fundraising through events like trivia night. What other things do we do? Golf tournament, thanks Kevin, and other fun. We try to do more events than order form type of fundraising, but the effort is out there to try to get as many students, to make this available to as many students as possible. Students also have personal donation sites, and for this trip, we have 3 to 4 fundraisers left prior to departure. So, with what I have done in the past, and what I continue to do, is I come up with 3 destinations that I have the students in the school vote for. It's their trip. I feel they should have a voice in their destination. This year's choices were Portugal, Scandinavia, and France, and the majority of the students that voted voted on Portugal for 2021. And I know little about the trip except that it looks really amazing, and it has become one of EF's premier, like most traveled to destinations. So looking forward at the calendar is always just an assumption, because I don't think that you have put together that calendar year yet, but it's always the assumption that we get the couple days around Easter to go, and that's where I place the April 1st through April 10th. So Easter of 2021 lands on April 4th. This trip is 10 days, which it is Greece, and Italy was as well. So barring any snow days or that type of thing, students and staff would miss 4 days of school. And the vote was just in at homecoming. If you approve this trip, I'll have an enrollment meeting already next week, because my effort is to give students as long as possible to either spread out their payments and or to fundraise. So, do you have any questions?
Just know that it has really grown. What a
Yeah.
opportunity. And how does fundraising go? Because there are so many other fundraisers, and yeah, you are doing different things that are
Again,
your
it's
events
easier,
pretty
like
successful?
I prefer to have as few order form fundraisers as possible, because this community is inundated with it. So, one of the criteria for, staff of Mora High School that apply to be chaperones is that they not only help me with the fundraisers that I have, that perpetuate every year, but they plan and organize a fundraiser of their own. Preferably an event, so that the community can come and enjoy an evening in support of this program. Fundraising is, per student. I have some students who don't fundraise at all, or they are working on their own. Or I had a student come up to me today saying she's been making chocolate chip zucchini bread, selling it for $5 a loaf on her own, and has raised $400. So, I mean, they are just ingenious and inventive on ways to get themselves on these trips. So the fundraising I do here, I try to have at least one per month, but there's only so much time I can donate to it and the other chaperones who are going. And so I always, I keep a list of what former students have done. You can do this on your own to raise money. These are ideas that have worked in the past. So it is, it is a struggle, but I work into the master calendar that, Kelly puts together, and all of these fundraisers are approved as of June prior to the fundraising season, so.
Anybody have any questions for Marcia?
No, these are incredible trips though. Kids just come back and their eyes wide open to the world, and that's an amazing experience that you're helping provide. So
Thanks, Bob. And this is just an addition to what Mora offers, because there's a student I just asked the other day, hey, would you be interested in coming? Well, no, I'm gonna go on the German trip. That is fantastic. Just take one of the 3 opportunities, 4, including band, that this small community offers. So I appreciate that, but it's bigger than just me, so thank you.
Well, it's given opportunity for you to give that nudge to somebody who may have never been out of Mora, or chances are they won't have opportunities very often like this.
Right, and I do,
See
I
what's
send, invites, to the enrollment meeting, the information meeting to homeschool students, so that community is reached. The ALC, I have at least one student this year in the ALC program who's participating as well. So just trying to get the word out there that a dream like this is attainable if you really just dig in and give it a go.
Thank you.
thanks for your efforts.
All right, with that, you see the proposal for 2021? Bob? Okay. That's a motion to approve the 2021 trip to Portugal. For a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Vincent and Tammy, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously, and thank you, Marcia.
Thank you for your time. I don't have to go home to put children to bed, but I have to go get my dog and feed her, so appreciate your time and have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Marcia, what was second place?
Scandinavia,
How close?
which is
would it be?
unusual because the France trip would have been Paris and the Riviera.
Wow, how close were the?
I had just about 100 votes. I just put it out there via email and then tell the students to pass the word and have it in the announcements. So I think it was 60 to 40 kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, there's this thin margin. Not everybody votes, not everybody has an interest. Or other students know that they're going to go on the Spanish trip or the German trip. So they just don't think that their voice matters in this, which is unfortunate because it does. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, see ya.
Lights.
All
It's so
right.
dark in the hallways.
Brings us to approval of the consent agenda. Are there any requests to remove any of the items on the consent agenda? If none, motion is in order to approve it as presented.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Bob Woods, second by Scott. Any further discussion? And part of the consent agenda are the monthly donations and gifts. So we'll accept those and acknowledge Essential Regional Arts Council, $3,000 to the ALC. And a couple from Mora Education Foundation, mini grants, $265.93 to a teacher in high school and to whatever the teacher is proposing to do for the program.
Those are
And-
probably multiple ones, that are mini grants.
Yes.
Probably a few of them in that.
Within the 263?
Right.
Okay. And then another one to Mora Elementary School from Mora Education Foundation in the amount of $1,607.81. Thanks to those donors. And there is no further discussion. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so the next item is discussion of the Minnesota Department of Education Commissioners' review comment statement on the proposed building bonds. We have received that. It has been published. It's on the school website. It's also been in the Times, or is running in the Times for the required number of times. One of the requirements of running this election is we need to have public comment opportunity or hold a public hearing, and that's what this is, and it gives citizens a chance to speak to it, make comments on it, or be part of the discussion at this time. Just a couple notes, we did receive a positive comment from the Department of Education. That's part of the criteria or one of the requirements in order for us to be eligible for the debt service equalization, which is the 40-some% of state aid, or whatever you wanna call the aid, but it's debt service equalization is what it's referred to. And then, there also was no public comment during the time of the review, which is, I guess, one way or the other, we got through the review period and the review comment was signed and sealed, and nobody during that time made any public comment at all with regard to the proposed facility. So, with that, I'll open it up to anybody who would like to make any comments, or Mr. Schultz, do you wanna add anything to that at this time?
No, I think you covered it very well. There is a possibility that it could be a positive review, a negative review, or a neutral review, and that has to do on various criteria. That review and comment is about a 35-page document that's submitted to the Department of Education. It has all of the demographic information for now and what's proposed for the future. It takes a look also at the history that we have currently in the facilities that we have, and then it's reviewed. One good part is they have the same Department of Education reviewers that have reviewed this. So as somebody had mentioned earlier, there's a number of school districts going out for bond elections. And when I did contact the department, I talked to the same person who has reviewed our pieces previously. And when I did talk with him, he said that it would be, he had already reviewed it and submitted it to the commissioner, but with the new commissioner and governor as to how they were going to go about the process of signing or identifying the review and comment piece, and how much time it would take to get back to us would be up to the new commissioner. So the two letters are included in your packet from the new commissioner, Mary Catherine Ricker. And so again, as Karen had said, we did get a positive response, as well as no public comment during the review process.
So we've been through this a few times, and the good news is they're pretty familiar with our situation down there at the department, and as Mr. Schultz said, the same sets of eyes looking at it. They're getting to know our situation pretty well. So, anybody have anything you'd like to add at this time? Yes? Yeah, Devin?
So I figure this is pretty much a home stretch. Last board meeting before November 5th vote, a couple weeks, like you said, left. I keep this book on my nightstand. I got about a half a dozen or a dozen books sitting there. It's called The Dip by Seth Godin. There's a few fans in here, I know. The first words after the title page are, "Being the best in the world is seriously underrated." Say that one more time. Being the best in the world is seriously underrated. And he goes on to clarify that world is really your world of where you're competing and all that business. I mean, the best in the universe. But I think that's something that we should all keep in mind, is that when we're thinking about our education facility and the education we're giving our kids, I always say that we should be preparing our students to be for the 21st century economy. And I'm sure there's some people that think, the school is good enough as it is. And I think this really speaks to good enough is not ever good enough. The best we can do is the only thing that's good enough. And the reason why being the best in the world is so underrated, or is so good to be the best in the world, is for all of the scare tactics or maybe legitimate fear of the S word in America. American capitalism. America is the most competitive country in the world. American capitalism is the most competitive economic system that's ever existed. And in that sort of system, you're really well rewarded for being the best. And the pay scales and the rewards increase dramatically in our system as you climb that ladder. And so every ounce of opportunity that we give our students pays back multiple times over, especially here compared to anywhere else in the world. So investing in our students pays off big time, because the more we can invest in being really the best that we can be, the more dividends it pays off in the end. So I just wanted to give those words of encouragement. It's called The Dip because it's an opportunity when every endeavor that's worth the effort has a dip. That's where you question yourself and you say, man, is this really worth it? And that criteria of, is this effort going to make us the best that we can be? That's the criteria you got to stop and look at when you're really questioning yourself. And we know that getting this new school is going to provide our students the best possible education. And that really reinforces for me that we're doing the right things, or at least I on the Vote Yes committee I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to get this done because it is so underrated to be the best in the world. So thank you for all the work. I would say thank you, but I think you have to listen to me. Thank you for not rolling your eyes.
Pep talk is always good, and it's a reminder always to me of the importance of a board instead of you're never alone or on an island. And believe me, there have been times when I think one way or another we've bolstered each other among the board too, because we work together every day on this, and there are times when I think individually we have doubts, but we've pretty much been unified on this is truly what we believe as a board is going to move the district forward. But we need to hear it.
And thanks for the support.
So thank you. Yeah. Okay, anybody else? We can move on to the next item. We will leave it at that. And so thank you, everybody, and all the leadership that we've realized or seen through the last however long again. Years, but especially in the last 6 months or so, so we appreciate it. Consider approval, next item, we're on item number 9. Consider approval of the Education Minnesota Mora Teachers Agreement for 2019-20. 2021. We entertain a motion to approve that, and any comments from the negotiating team? So wish.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Just to get on the table.
Okay, we have a
I'll second.
motion by Scott, second by Ethan.
Comments are,
Discussion? Yes.
it's, good, it was a nice, decent negotiation, we, paced it out well, there was good discussion back and forth. We certainly appreciate, like I said, the ability to have those conversations and go back and forth and realize it's negotiation. As Mr. Schultz said, it's not, a job performance review. It is a whole separate thing, and to go over that and try to put feelings and everything to the side and say, that's the business part of teaching. And so we appreciate that being able to come together, and that's just what I wanted to say.
I want to echo that too. That the process is never easy. It can be a little gut wrenching at times, but knowing the people on the other side of the table and knowing the relationships that we built, I really appreciate how that went. And I just look forward to continuing to work for you and with you.
All right, so, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passes unanimously. Yeah, thank you, everybody, both teachers and board committee. All right, brings us to board reports, administrative updates. So, school board members,
I just heard that you guys at the elementary building have quite an event, a lunch with parents or something, and there wasn't a lot of expectations, but it went way beyond, like 250 parents showing up.
I'm not sure exactly how
210
many.
signed in, and 70 took meals.
So that's fantastic, so.
We had no idea what to expect,
Right.
and now we do next year. We
Yeah.
know what to expect, so, and maybe expand it a little
I
bit.
thought
So
that was really neat.
It was really great, yeah.
Yeah, especially, I wouldn't have expected that either.
Oh.
To hear those kind of numbers, it's like, wow.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And that was part of Barb Frederickson's idea to do, correct?
It was all Barb's
Yeah,
idea.
so-
Yep.
So just.
She
to-
coordinated it, and she was just efficient on the lunch, handing out the lunches. Those were pre-packed, they were put into boats. It was lasagna, it was a great meal, but they were put into boats so that they could speed up the serving and everything. It was a great day.
So I wanted to applaud her on that.
Yeah,
As part of
absolutely.
the wellness committee, you guys all have this within the packet. That one of Barb's ideas that I think is really just gonna catch fire. It's a menu for ordering in the classroom, and there's healthy snacks that meet the wellness committee's guidelines for healthy snacks. And according to Annie, I think the 4 or 5 of these have already been ordered, and this was the brainchild of Barb as well. Just meeting the needs at a very reasonable cost makes it simpler, so you're not walking in with bunches of things to hand out in classrooms, and it's beneficial for the school district as well. So kudos to Barb for the event of eating with family members and then the implementation of this classroom catering.
Yeah, Barb did a fantastic job.
So any questions? This was something that we reviewed in the wellness committee. Why haven't we done this before? This is a wonderful idea.
Has it been implemented?
It is, yep. So it was either 4 or 5 have already been ordered. Meals for classroom or snacks for classrooms have already been done.
I am the only parent of an elementary student on the board, and I saw this come home in my daughter's backpack, and I was so excited because I was like, yes, because I am the one who brings all of the sugar. And so I have this now that I don't even have to bring it, even though this is way better options than what I would bring anyways. So now I'm not the bad guy for bringing in all the sugar, and I'm helping out the school, and they are definitely helping me out when I want to provide the classroom with, the whole classroom with a snack. It's genius. It was really exciting to me to see it.
Fantastic. Yeah, probably that was making life easier for a lot of parents when it comes to having always be thinking about snack time, so.
Great idea.
All right, thank you, Bob. Anybody else have any board meetings or things to report on? If not, we'll move on. Scott, were you going to say
No, I
something?
was just, no, that was before, it was in September. So it was reported on already.
Not trying to rush.
I'm just trying to.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, it's
I
okay.
Okay, we'll hear from the students. Board members.
No.
No. Whatever you do, make sure you address me as no. Don't. You do, you're out of here.
I'm Abby Soka. I am the Vice President of Mora Student Council. And we have been very busy, well, we were very busy with homecoming. We do a lot for homecoming. This year we brought back the commemorative homecoming buttons, which we had a long time ago, I guess.
So fun.
I remember them. But we brought them back, and how many did we start with?
Like 150.
No,
200.
Yeah, we had like 250. So I wrote 200
Because you
numbers.
wrote 250 numbers on the back, yeah.
So we got 250 buttons, just because that kind of was a good price for us. And we were like, well, if they sell, they sell. If they don't, then we know not to do it again next year. And we sold them each for $1, and we did, all the money goes to tackle cancer, and we ended up selling every single button. So we'll definitely be doing that again next year.
It's pretty retro.
Yeah.
I was so excited when I saw that, oh, I was excited.
Who, did somebody locally make them for us?
I think we just ordered them.
We ordered
From a
them.
company then?
Yeah, we remembered that we had put in that fundraising form approximately the Tuesday before homecoming week, so we needed somebody with a really quick turnaround.
Yeah, we did that, and then we planned for homecoming, we did all of the fun dress-up days, we did the pep fest, and then our juniors did the things with all, like, the Waking the Royals and the, fest, or the game show, and they had a lot of fun with that. We also recently were at the last home football game, we did a tackle cancer table, and we were just taking any donations that people were willing to give. I don't know what our total number was for that. I think it was pretty good.
They could do the money.
Yes, I got the money, but it
At least 100. Yeah. And then our most recent thing that we did is we elected our 7th graders, our 5 7th graders, and we went through the interview process and then got it down from 18 to 5. So that's always tough, but
Interesting.
yeah. And then our next upcoming event is we have a blood drive soon. So that's in less than 2 weeks. And we will be preparing for that.
Always busy.
Yeah.
Appreciate everything you do, and it's good for all the students. Are you still hearing positive comments on homecoming days, so that will no doubt continue much as it is?
Yeah, I think in 7th grade interviews, when we asked them what their favorite part about Mora High School was, I think every single one said the freedom and then homecoming day. They love homecoming day. I think it's the best thing ever. So it's really good to hear.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Abby. Activities, community ed, Chris.
All right, so the section cross country meet was this afternoon, held out at the golf course. Everything went really well. The course was in great shape, so we had lots of compliments on that. Our girls team finished 10th, and Peyton Oslin was the first girl across. The boys finished 3rd this year, and Cooper Lennox finished 3rd overall, so he'll go to state. We sent students and some coaches to the Granite Ridge Leadership Day and also the Region 5 Team Up Day. So those are some leadership sportsmanship days that our juniors go to, and they're beneficial. I think I've heard positive comments about them. So Just to talk about homecoming real quick, we had the community come up, invited the elementary kids, the community from 3:15 to 6:15. We had over 500 people come during that time, so it's a good thing. It's getting bigger, and we have way more people than we did last year. So talking with Mr. Austin, we plan on continuing to do that. There's a lot of support there for it. And as you can hear, the junior high play is going on tonight, tomorrow, and then Saturday afternoon. Any questions?
It sounds like a lot of talent. I can't wait to see it. Any questions for Chris? Okay, thanks. Moving on then to buildings, grounds, transportation.
Hi, good evening. We started our boilers up here at the high school. They've been kind of off and on depending on the weather, but that went really well. There hasn't been any major issues with those boilers at the high school. The new wrestling mat hoist is up in the rafters in the competitive gym, and it was wired today. I have keys for us, so it's in working function. At the elementary school, we had a compressor go out on the new construction, so we had a crane there. Geez, is that last week? Early in the morning, and they lifted up the new compressor, and RJ Mechanical is there to put that together. It's all under warranty, so hopefully that takes care of some of that HVAC stuff there. And just want to remind you, I think I talked about it, but we have to test for radon in the wellness center. That was kind of overlooked last year. They kind of thought it was the hospital's building and not ours, and so we're going to do that. I think it's December 9th through the 12th, a short-term test. So we're going to get some communication out to all the members that have access, that they're going to be hanging some of these pouches to collect that data, and then get that information and put it on file. So that'll be happening this winter. Transportation, I did hear back from that settlement grant, the Volkswagen emissions, and we did not get a grant. This is round 2. So I don't know if they're going to keep going. I know there's lots of money in that pile, but I have all the information, so if it comes out again, I'll update the mileage on the form and send it back and see what happens. But and we did our bus evacuation drill this yesterday, and it went really well and smooth. And we only have to do that once a year, if you recall that from last year. We had to do it twice 2 years ago, but last year and this year we just have to do it once, and that's done and went well. So if you have any questions, let me know.
So, principals update, Mr. Wilson?
Homecoming day, I just want to, again, shout out to Mr. Austin. He did a nice job organizing that. A lot of people did a lot of work. Mr. Schoberg, Ms. Post, Mr. Simpson, Mr. Sand, and Mr. Norby, they helped set it up, take it down. They really went above and beyond. Our kitchen staff and our custodial staff, it's a lot of extra work for those groups. Some businesses in town, Emma's, Kev's, and the Crystal, they provided food for the staff that day. So it was really a great, every year we pray for good weather, you know. It's so late in the season, we're always afraid it's gonna snow, but once again, we've had good weather, so. German exchange is done with. I just wanna thank those in the community who opened your doors to our 9th grade German students. I was lucky enough to be able to sit in Mr. Fury's class and hear those students presenting on what everyday life is like to our students. So that was a great thing for our students to learn firsthand. Building tours, we gave our 5th community tour, actually today. Mr. Docky led it, so it's great to see so many people in the community wanting to come in and see what our building needs are.
How many today did people go through?
Well, it was supposed to be 14.
13 or 14, but we had 2. We've been averaging about 8-ish in each tour. We like that it's a small group. We're able to have more conversation, ask more questions, see more things. So it's been very positive.
Last night, Ms. Sparks and I were able to go and celebrate with our Leah Banquet Award winners, which were Ms. Erickson, Jennifer Erickson, Ms. Caitlin Vickers, Ms. Naomi Schultz, and Ms. Patty Faulkner. A couple things I was going to pass around here. Recently, Lene Christensen passed away. She served our district for 30 years. I was able to get to that visitation.
pass that around. I know a lot of you also were. And then our ACT scores, we just got in the mail and we really kicked butt. So I want to pass this around. We went up in all 4 areas. Those are English, math, reading, and science. And our composite, which is the average of those 4, is the highest it's been in the last 4 years. So hats off to our teachers, students.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Elementary.
We had a lot of fun at our fun run, the 2nd annual fun run. Just a shout out to Lane and Chana. They did a ton of work, and we exceeded our expectations, and we exceeded last year's results, which we weren't expecting by any means. And because we had so much fun, you can see our next bullets, we can have more fun. We have 3 lyceums that are booked, or 2 lyceums, and then the Ninja Warrior course again. And all of those are quite expensive as well. So we put the funds that we gained there from the fun run to good use, and the kids really appreciate all of those activities that we have.
The next 2 bullets, I just put some key site goals and then the staff development goal that we've had the same staff development goal the past, well, since I've been here. And so we updated it this year to align with the leadership instructional vision goal that I told you guys about last June. And it had 4 components, so we just aligned ours to that. So I included that in here, and you'll notice that the Q-Comp site goal is based off the math. When I showed you the world's best workforce updates, I mentioned that Q-Comp is now going to have the math focus because our data shows that reading's going pretty well. Math, we just need to focus on a bit more, so we've changed that focus and the goals to be with math.
Targeted services started on the 21st. It says here that we had 65 students registered. We're up to 74, which is way better than the last few years, so that's exciting to see. And we have 6 teachers and 5 paras now that are participating.
I just wanted to point out the in-service day, I put the wrong date there, I'm so sorry. It's November 4th, Monday, November 4th. On that day, we're going to cover e-learning for all the certified teachers. We did already, we taught them about it last year, but we're going to bring them in, just reiterate all the different requirements of the plan, and then they're going to have time to work together and collaborate on what does e-learning look like for each content level, grade level, and come up with some plans for that prior to any snow falling, hopefully. So, so that's what we're doing on November 4th. And we're also getting it all up on the website. There's an e-learning button there now, so parents won't have to look for it anywhere. It's just right on the top on the banner. And Tim is helping me with that, so it'll all be there too.
We're finalizing our Veterans Day programming. Troy Erickson will be our keynote speaker this year, so we're excited for that.
Thank you. Superintendent's update.
Well, let's see, we covered the review and comment piece already. I did want to go into the details of the early voting. I would encourage you to take the opportunity for the early voting up through November 4th. On November 5th, we'll be at City Hall from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last month, I mentioned the upgrade to the MDE Secure Reports. That continues. We had our 2nd phase on October 18th, and we should conclude on November 15th. So I'll be very happy once that's over with. The Insurance and Compliance Report, we should have that done by about the end of October here. There are no items to be brought to the board as far as changes go, so we'll get that taken care of. Went into a little bit of the information about the working with the teachers in the current negotiations, some of the highlights there. I too would like to comment that I thought it went well for both sides and appreciate the professionalism shown by the teachers. As we went through it, as Scott had mentioned, we were able to have conversations, a little more open conversations, and we were able to craft language that was beneficial for both the teaching staff as well as the district. So do appreciate that. We have been contacted by the custodial group, and we'll be setting up. So if you're on the custodial group, you may have gotten some dates already kicked out that will be working on custodial negotiations, as well as the parasecretaries and food service have requested spreadsheet information as well, and some various contract information. So we should be getting that group up and going as well. This past month, I attended a number of meetings on behalf of the school district. I think one of the ones that's probably taken the most time, and I don't know if it's most stressful, is the Cambridge Isanti leaving the Rum River Special Education Co-op. We are also looking now at disbursement of assets, since they were one of the original founders. We have a number of assets then that we need to go through and negotiate out on how that disbursement will be. There is a state statute that gives us some guidance, but also does require that it's not to put a significant financial burden on the co-op. So we're trying to work through that process, and I think we'll have a positive outcome from that as well. I would just like to follow up from last month. We had two groups that came and spoke to the board. There were the hockey parents, and at that time we had talked about by taking no action or taking action a year from now would work better for those two girls that would be seniors, juniors this year, seniors next year. And so no action will be needed there. The bus request, we did go. I went with Chip. We had Dean drive a school bus up there. We did check out that road, the turnaround that they had. And I believe it was about a week or two later, we started picking their students up then at the turnaround. So we were able to accommodate that. So I just wanted to follow up on those two pieces from last month. Any questions that you have?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, one other thing, just this week, I'll give you a report next month. But along the lines of, we just finished up that transportation audit. We just, this week, we had TRA was in auditing as well this week. And then the toll audit for the school district, we have seen the draft and we're working on finalizing that. And we should have that to present to the board at the next meeting in November.
Okay. Brings us to the end of reports. Future meeting dates are there. Did mention board advisory committee meeting date will be November 18th. So if you know that for people to attend, you can look at the rest of the dates. Regular board meeting in November is the 21st. Sounds like a pretty normal time. That actually is a week early due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And the rest you can read on your own. So correspondence is going around. Any other board business?
One thing I'd also like to, it's okay, I'd like to highlight just a little bit. Mr. Nelson did mention these ACT scores. I think one of the real exciting things about these is this is a nationally normed test. This isn't MCA's, this isn't just a Minnesota test, and we can't compare from state to state. This compares us against our state students, and there were 59,000 tested last year, juniors going into seniors. And so this is, again, is that nationally normed test. And we've been working very diligently here the last 5 to 7 years, very specifically on specific curricular pieces. And all of those things are all the predecessors that come up to this nationally normed test. So when you take a look at it, you hear that we're doing better in science than the state average. That feels pretty doggone good. Because if you remember back about 5 years ago, in the past couple of years, the MCAs have reflected that we've been improving, but now we're also doing it on a nationally normed test on the ACT. So just to highlight that and put a little more bang on your piece.
Well, if I can add, you know, if we're like this with a state, out of the 50 states, Minnesota is always one of the very top states. Sure. So that gives you some perspective too.
So that's quite an accomplishment academically for the high school as well as across the district.
Good news. All right. Anything else? The second open forum. Anybody like to address the board? Down.
A little bit in the first forum, but then Travel club, that's super exciting. I heard about that the first time this week. I did a half a semester abroad studying when I was in junior college. I went to Itasca and got my associate's degree in engineering, which means, I don't think it means anything, but I did a half a semester abroad there, did some studying. A warning of that is I got my first B+ there because in Denmark, the drinking age is 18. So that's something to be aware of, is you gotta keep a close eye on those kids. And then I went again at my 4-year school working. I worked for an engineering firm in Germany, and that was pretty awesome. But those programs were both every other year because they are such resource-intensive programs. That burnout is a real concern. So I'm 100% behind the program, but if you've got sophomores, juniors, and seniors, I think it's worth thinking about going at once every 3 years. I know it does reduce some opportunity because of people that could go this year but couldn't go next year. But it's something to think about if there is burnout. Given the opportunity, once in a high school career might be an option just to reduce the resource intensity because it's a lot.
Well, and thus the 12 chaperones.
But, and also even fundraising within a community the size of ours. So appreciate the support that we have, but how much can we expect the community to absorb or to contribute to?
Yeah, and those programs, up in Itasca, that's a 2-year school, so they went every other year. So if you're there for 2 years, you get an opportunity either your freshman or sophomore year. And then the work abroad program at my 4-year school, that was only available to juniors and seniors. So they went every other year, so you got to go as a junior or senior if you want to go.
The music trip is on that rotation.
Yeah, it's so tough. It'd be nice to go multiple times, but.
It would be interesting to pull some information to see how many repeat trip people that she has from sophomore, junior, and senior. But then also how many go on multiple trips, if they go on a German-Spanish trip, as well as then one of these trips over the course of that 3 years. That'll be some interesting data now as we're starting to establish some background in history. So, good point.
What will this proposed one, will that be the 4th or the 5th?
This one is the third, and that one should be the fourth.
Yeah, no, a pretty new program and all right, thank you. Anybody else wish to address the board at this time? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?